He sat in silence, staring at the glowing screen of his phone, reading the message over and over again. I'm taking my bachelorette party to Cancun, with male strippers. For a few seconds, his brain refused to process the words. It was as if his heart had skipped a beat, and the world had gone quiet around him. The sound of the ceiling fan, the faint hum of the refrigerator, even the city noise outside, all faded. Noah blinked, his thumb trembling as he scrolled up, wondering if he'd missed some joke. Maybe there was a winking emoji, a just kidding somewhere. There wasn't. The message stood cold and confident, written in the same tone Emma used when she decided something without needing his input. He leaned back on the couch, rubbing his eyes. His chest felt tight, like something heavy had been placed on it. They'd been engaged for 8 months. The wedding was in 6 weeks. And up until a few minutes ago, he thought everything was fine, maybe not perfect, but good enough that he never imagined this. He typed, "Wait, what, Cancun?" and deleted it. Then typed again, "You're joking, right?" but deleted that to. How do you even respond to something like that? His phone buzzed again before he could decide. Don't overthink it, Noah. It's just one last girl's trip before I'm a married woman. Everyone does it. Relax, relax. That word cut deeper than he expected. He stared at the message, a bitter taste rising in his mouth. Everyone does it. Emma had always been social, fun, outgoing, the kind of person who could walk into a room full of strangers and make friends instantly. He loved that about her once. She made him laugh, pulled him out of his shell. But lately, that same energy had started to scare him. She had new friends from her job, people he didn't know well. He'd seen their stories on Instagram, rooftop bars, pool parties, late-night laughter. He wasn't invited to most of those. She'd say things like, "You wouldn't enjoy it," or, "It's just work people." He wanted to trust her. God, he had trusted her. But Cancun, with male strippers, for a bachelorette party, something inside him cracked. That night, he didn't sleep. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling the slow drift of fear turning into anger, then sadness. He tried to remember the first time he saw her. It was at a friend's birthday dinner, 2 years ago. She'd been wearing this blue dress, laughing so hard that she had to hold her stomach. Her eyes crinkled when she smiled. He remembered thinking, that's the kind of person who feels alive. They started talking that night, and everything about her felt like sunlight after a long winter. She made him feel wanted, important, seen. And now, somehow, he felt invisible again. The next morning, he sent her a message. "We should talk when you get a chance." She didn't reply for hours. When she did, it was casual, like they were discussing weekend plans. About what? He typed, about Cancun, about why this feels wrong. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then came back, then gone again. Finally, her message popped up. "Noah, I don't need your permission to have fun. You trust me, right?" He stared at the words for a long time. That was the thing, he did trust her, or he wanted to. But something about how she phrased it made him feel small. "It's not about permission," he wrote back. "It's about respect." This time, she didn't reply. When he told his best friend Liam about it, the reaction was immediate. "Dude, that's insane. Male strippers, Cancun, and she's calling it a bachelorette party. Bro, that's a red flag the size of a billboard." Noah sighed. "I don't know, man. Maybe I'm overreacting. She says it's just fun." Liam leaned forward. "Would she be okay if you had a bachelor party with, I don't know, topless dancers?" Noah didn't answer. He didn't need to. The silence spoke for itself. Days passed, but the feeling didn't fade. In fact, it grew heavier. Every time Emma mentioned the trip in passing, his stomach twisted. She'd say things like, "We're booking the villa today," or "The girls found this beach bar, apparently it's wild." Wild. That word stung every time. He wanted to be supportive. He wanted to be the calm, trusting but every instinct in him screamed that something wasn't right. One evening he tried again. Can we just talk about this? Seriously, I'm not trying to control you. This doesn't feel right." She rolled her eyes. "You're being dramatic, Noah. You think I'm gonna cheat on you or something." He looked at her, hurt flashing across his face. "You tell me, would you be okay if I went to Vegas with female dancers for my bachelor party?" She didn't answer, just crossed her arms and muttered, "You're different." Different how? He didn't ask. He just nodded slowly and walked away. When the day of her flight finally came, Noah stood in the doorway as Emma zipped up her suitcase. She looked radiant, tan skin glowing, hair tied back, eyes filled with excitement. The same excitement he once loved now felt like a stranger between them. "You sure you'll be okay without me for a week?" she said playfully, kissing him on the cheek. He smiled faintly. "Yeah, you have fun. Don't worry so much," she added, grabbing her passport. "It's just Cancun. Just Cancun." He watched her walk out the door, suitcase wheels clattering softly behind her, and something in his chest told him when she came back, things wouldn't be the same. The first 2 days were silence, no calls, no messages, just a couple of group stories on Instagram, shots of cocktails, the beach, and a group of women posing in swimsuits. Noah told himself she deserved her fun. He muted her stories and tried to focus on work. But then, on the third night, he saw something that made his hands go cold. One of her friends, Layla, posted a story. The camera panned across a party, flashing lights, loud music, men in costumes dancing, and there, at the edge of the frame, he saw Emma, sitting on a chair, laughing, a man's shirtless arm around her shoulders. He froze, his heart started racing. He replayed the video 3 times, just to be sure. There was no mistaking it was her. His stomach dropped. He wanted to look away, but he couldn't. That night, he didn't sleep. He just sat there in the dark, phone screen glowing, wondering if this was how love always ended, not with screaming, not with betrayal in words, but with slow, quiet heartbreak from the person you trusted most. When Emma finally called the next afternoon, her tone was light. "Hey babe, sorry I haven't texted much. Wi-Fi here is so bad." Noah took a deep breath. "I saw Layla's story." A pause. "What?" "I saw the video. You with that guy." She scoffed. "Oh my God, Noah, you're seriously spying on me now." "I wasn't spying. It was public." She went silent for a few seconds, then said, "It was just for fun. Nothing happened." He swallowed hard. "I want to believe that." "Then believe it," she said sharply. "Because if you don't, maybe we shouldn't be getting married." The words hit him like a slap. He wanted to fight back, to shout, to demand answers, but instead, he whispered, "Maybe you're right." That night, Noah sat alone on the couch with their wedding invitation list spread out before him, their names printed side by side, Ma and Noah. He traced the letters slowly, feeling a deep ache in his chest. It wasn't about Cancun anymore. It wasn't even about that man's arm around her shoulders. It was about what she chose. She chose a party over peace, freedom over faith, excitement over love. And maybe that said everything. He closed his eyes, remembering how she used to fall asleep on his chest, whispering, "You're my forever." Now forever felt like a lie they both wanted to believe but couldn't live up to. When Emma came back a week later, she looked different. Her tan was deeper, her smile brighter. She looked alive. But the moment her eyes met his, something in her expression shifted, like she could sense that the warmth between them had cooled. "No hug," she teased, stepping forward. He hesitated, then gave her a small, distant embrace. "How was it?" he asked. "Unforgettable," she said, tossing her hair. "You should have seen the place. I'll show you pictures." He nodded quietly. "Sure." Later that night, she fell asleep early. He scrolled through her social media again, noticing something, odd photos from the trip, but none with her ring. The ring that used to be on her left hand in every picture, nowhere to be seen. Noah lay awake that night, long after Emma had drifted into sleep beside him. Her soft breathing should have been comforting, but instead, it felt like the sound of distance, the rhythm of someone who no longer belonged entirely to him. He turned his head slightly, watching the faint moonlight spill across her face. Once, he would have kissed her forehead and whispered, "I love you." Now, he couldn't even find the words. There was a quiet ache that felt older than both of them, the kind of pain that comes from loving someone who has already left you in their heart. He closed his eyes, pretending to sleep, and somewhere between the hours, he decided something without even realizing it. The next morning, he brewed coffee and waited for her to wake up. When she did, she stretched and smiled lazily. "Morning," she said, as if nothing had happened. He handed her a cup. "Morning." She took a sip and leaned against the counter. "You're quiet. You still mad about the trip?" He looked at her for a long moment. "No," he said softly. "Just thinking." "About what?" "About us." She sighed, rolling her eyes just slightly. That small gesture that used to mean she was bored of serious talks. "Noah, we're fine. You're overthinking again." He smiled faintly. "Maybe, but something's changed, hasn't it?" She hesitated. "What do you mean?" "I don't know," he said, voice steady but heavy. "You went there, had your fun, and came back. lighter, happier, maybe, but not with me. Her lips parted slightly, but she didn't speak. He went on, I used to think trust meant never doubting you. Now I think it means being honest when something hurts. She frowned, setting her cup down. Are you saying you don't trust me? I'm saying, he whispered, I don't feel like we're on the same team anymore. The room went quiet. The coffee machine clicked off. The morning sun spilled across the counter between them, bright, harsh, unflattering. Emma looked down at her hands, twisting the ring around her finger. For a second, she looked guilty. Then her expression hardened. You're reading too much into this, she said finally. It was one trip, Noah, one trip. He nodded slowly. Maybe, but one trip was enough to show me where we stand. The next few days passed in silence. She went out more, met friends, avoided eye contact when she came home late. Noah didn't ask questions anymore. He'd stopped wanting to hear answers that would only break him further. Instead, he began spending time at the park near their apartment. He'd sit on a bench with his notebook, writing down thoughts he couldn't say aloud. Sometimes, older couples walked by, holding hands, laughing softly, and he'd wonder, what do they know that he doesn't? What kept them together when so many others drifted apart? One afternoon, as he watched the leaves move with the wind, Liam joined him. Still no progress. Liam asked. Noah shook his head. She's here, but she's not here. You know, Liam sighed. Man, you deserve better than someone who treats your heart like an option. Noah smiled weakly. Maybe, but I think part of love is realizing when to stop fighting for someone who doesn't want to stay. That night, when he got home, Emma was sitting on the couch scrolling through her phone. She looked up briefly. Hey. The air between them was filled with unspoken words. He could feel it pressing against his chest. I talked to my mom today, she said suddenly. She asked if we're still good for next month. Next month, he repeated quietly. You mean the wedding? Yeah. He sat down opposite her. Are we? She blinked. Are we what? Still good for it? Her lips parted, but no words came. The silence stretched. She glanced away, pretending to read a message. Noah took a deep breath. Emma, if you don't want this, if you're not sure, I'd rather know now. Finally, she looked at him. And in her eyes, he saw what he'd been afraid to admit all along. Doubt. I don't know, she whispered. I thought I did, but lately, I don't know who I am anymore. Noah's heart sank, but he didn't get angry. For the first time, he understood. Maybe this wasn't betrayal in the way he feared. Maybe it was something quieter, the slow unraveling of two people who stopped meeting each other in the middle. He nodded. Then maybe we shouldn't force it. She looked up, startled. What are you saying? I'm saying I love you enough to let you go, if that's what you need. Tears welled in her eyes, but she blinked them away. You're just giving up. No, he said softly. I'm accepting the truth. The days that followed were a blur of logistics, canceling venues, refunding deposits, returning rings, but the real ache wasn't in what they lost. It was in the quiet moments, brushing past each other in the hallway, packing boxes, remembering how much laughter those walls used to hold. On the final night before she moved out, Emma came to his door. Can I come in? He nodded. She stepped inside, holding something small, her engagement ring. I wanted to give this back in person, she said, placing it in his palm. Her voice trembled. You didn't deserve the way I treated you. I got lost in who I thought I was supposed to be. He looked at her, eyes tired but gentle. We both lost our way. She hesitated. Do you hate me? He shook his head. No, I just miss who we used to be. She swallowed hard. Me too. There was a long silence, and then she leaned forward and hugged him, the kind of hug that feels like both a goodbye and a thank you. When she pulled away, her tears had fallen onto his shirt. Take care of yourself, okay? He nodded. You too. And then she was gone. The first few weeks after she left were rough. The apartment felt too quiet, the bed too big. He'd catch himself glancing at her empty side of the closet or hearing echoes of her laughter in the kitchen. Grief, he learned, doesn't always come from death. Sometimes it comes from the loss of a future you already started building in your head. But slowly, painfully, life began to move again. He started running in the mornings, something he hadn't done since college. He reconnected with old friends, took a photography class, even traveled alone for the first time. Not far, just a few hours up the coast. There was a small beach town where the sunsets stretched endlessly over the horizon. He'd sit there for hours, camera in hand, watching the waves roll in, and thinking about how strange it was that sometimes love doesn't end with hate, it just ends. One evening, as he watched the sky fade into gold, an older man sitting nearby struck up a conversation. "Beautiful, isn't it?" The man said. "Yeah," Noah replied. The man smiled. "You look like someone who's learning to breathe again." Noah chuckled softly. "Something like that." They talked for a while about love, mistakes, forgiveness, and before leaving, the man said something that stayed with him. "Don't let what broke you define how you love next. Let it teach you where to be gentler with others and with yourself." Months passed. Seasons changed. Noah wasn't the same man who once sat staring at his phone, paralyzed by fear. He'd stopped checking Emma's social media, stopped replaying old conversations in his head. Instead, he learned to live in the quiet again. One day, while cleaning, he found an old photo of them laughing on the beach, wind in their hair, before all the cracks began to show. He smiled sadly, then slipped it into a drawer. Some stories aren't meant to last forever, but they still matter, because they remind you that love, even when it fails, can still teach you something true about honesty, about self-worth, about letting go. A year later, Noah walked into a local cafe with his camera slung over his shoulder. He'd just finished a small photography exhibition, his first, and decided to celebrate with a quiet cup of coffee. As he waited in line, he heard a soft voice behind him. "Noah." He turned around. Emma stood there, hair shorter, eyes softer. There was a warmth in her face he hadn't seen in a long time. "Hey," he said, surprised but calm. "Wow, it's been a while." "Yeah," she smiled faintly. "You look good, so do you." They talked for a few minutes, small talk, gentle, easy. She told him she'd moved back from another city, started volunteering, found new purpose. He told her about photography, about peace, about finally feeling okay. There was a moment of quiet, and then she said, "I think about you sometimes, about what we had." He nodded. "Me too, but I think we're where we're supposed to be now." She smiled. "Yeah, maybe we are." They said goodbye with a hug, not the desperate kind they once shared, but the peaceful kind between two people who finally forgave each other. That night, as Noah walked home under the fading orange sky, he felt something inside him settle. He realized he wasn't angry anymore. Not at her, not at himself. The pain had become part of him, like a scar that no longer hurt to touch. He understood now that love doesn't always stay. Sometimes it comes to teach you what you didn't know about yourself, how deep you can feel, how strong you can become, and how healing often begins right after everything falls apart. He smiled, lifted his camera, and took a photo of the sunset, a quiet reminder that endings can still be beautiful. Don't forget to watch more stories like this.